Teachers of Reddit, what was the best excuse for being late that turned out to be true? Not a student, but one of my teaching assistants when I ran a preschool in West Philly. Sorry I missed yesterday, my friend shot my mom. Naturally, I'm a little speechless. Oh no, it's okay, he was aiming for someone else. I was one of about 20 kids who were late to school. We showed up at the school office as a group and when questioned why we were late, we said the school bus blew up. They questioned so the engine blew up. The kids know. The whole bus in flames. It blew up. There was much conference between the teachers. All of them thinking we embellished the story. Next thing you know, one of the admin staff has the news website open. Very obvious image of an entire bus on fire with a bunch of kids in our school uniforms standing. In front of it, our late slip for class reads school bus blew up. Told me he got pulled over by the cops for wobbly driving on his bike and they thought he was drunk. Turned out he was just dodging all the slugs on the street. School sporting event. Kid on our team was late because someone stole his windshield wipers and it was snowing out. Kept having to pull over to the side of the road and wipe off his windshield. Wow, that's a reel that swiped his wipers on a snowy day. When I was student teaching, I was late because there was bunched chickens in the middle of the road. They wouldn't move at all. This is in the middle of a city of 200 people. Freaking chickens. I finally get to school and profusely apologize to my mentor teacher and I told her why. I was late thinking it sounded ridiculous. She said, yeah, those chickens are. They surrounded my car in the McDonald's parking lot last year. Don't worry about it. Yeah, those chickens are. They surrounded my car in the McDonald's parking lot last year. Don't worry about it. They were protesting the McChicken sandwich. MTV paid me $50 to fill my backpack with cement and carry it around for the day. I accepted that excuse. Student later regretted it, as a replacement backpack and college textbooks far exceeded $50. But he got his moment of fame and I didn't penalize him for his tardy. Gotta live a little. Edit, someone found a newspaper article on this. Turns out it was $200. He earned $100 for the first day and $100 when he returned the next day. I remembered $50, but it was 19 years ago. So I was right to believe him. He still lost all his stuff thanks cement, and I remember him telling me it wasn't worth it. And edit, typo. I was the student. My neighbor had a really social goat, and she figured out how to escape her pen in order to come over and hang out. She escaped and followed me to the bus stop, and when the bus came, she tried to follow me onto it. I couldn't actually get on the bus without her being right behind me, so I had to get off, bring her home, and call my dad to bring me to school. My neighbor had a really social goat is the best thing I've read today. Thank you, lol. Had a sociology professor in college who was never late for anything. One day, we showed up for class and he wasn't there. After 5 minutes or so, we are reading the handbook to find out what level of professor he was and found that he was an associate professor and entitled to 10 minutes wait. A few seconds before his time expired, a voice came from under his desk saying, "Today we are going to discuss withdrawn personalities." He conducted the whole class from under his desk. My best friend and I used to roller skate to school and one day we both forgot to put our shoes in our backpacks. So we skated to the vice principal's office and got to skip first period to go home for shoes. We stopped at Taco Bell on the way back for breakfast because we figured we were already excused. We had an exam in my class and the teacher got a message from a student saying that he was going to be late because his car had a flat tire. The student was known to party. The teacher didn't think it could be true. So as a joke, the teacher asked him to bring the tire back. He brought the flat tire back in the middle of the exam. Needless to say, the professor didn't expect that. Not me, but one of my good friends went to the Royal Military College of Canada, where they wear their uniforms and there are often tourists visiting the campus. Apparently, it was completely normal to be waylaid by tourists looking to have their photos taken with students in uniform that all they had to say when they walked in late was tourists and the professors would let it slide. She always wondered how many family photos she was actually in over her time spent there. Not a teacher, but a friend said his house blew away. Apparently, tornado. Not a teacher, but I was training a new hire at a job and the guy came in 45 minutes late stating he got halfway to work and realized he didn't have shoes on. It was winter and like 105 degrees outside. A kid missed my first period class one morning, but was in school later that day. When I asked him why he hadn't arrived in time for my course, he said his cow was birthing its calf that morning, so he'd picked being in the barn over English. Made sense to me. His essays weren't going to win any ribbons at the county fair, but his calf could. I am a teacher, but this happened when I was a student. Does it count? In high school, a kid came late to history class. He was a joker, so when someone asked him where he had been, he goes, "I was kidnapped." Everyone laughed, until he goes, "No, really." Turns out two guys kidnapped him and tossed him into the back of the minivan he was using for his morning paper route. They drove him around while they robbed something. I can't remember what happens after. I think they just drove the van somewhere and got away. When I was in college, my psych professor told us that the only excuse for being late was a funeral procession. Any other reason, you wouldn't be allowed to come in. A few weeks into the semester, I was headed from one building to another, which involved crossing the main road. Lo and behold, there was one very long funeral procession going by. I got a short video of it as proof, then stood on the sidewalk to let it go by. Unfortunately, the procession made me 5 minutes late to class. I knocked on the door, and the professor came over to start to tell me off. I showed her the video. Well, I'll be damned. Come on in. I teach psychology online to international students. One semester, I had a student from Finland that submitted an assignment late. His excuse: my grandmother got hit by a reindeer while getting the post. This happened to me as a pupil, a very quiet, unassuming kid in our class came into German with about 5 minutes of the class left. We went to a Catholic school and the teachers were all quite strict and intimidating. Classes were usually silent, especially in junior school. When this boy came into class at the end of the lesson that day, the door flew inwards with such force that the teacher gave an audible gasp. It had been raining heavily outside. His hair was plastered to his forehead. His blazer was dripping and sodden. He had mud caked into his trousers up to his knees, and he was breathing heavily. The teacher exclaimed, "Brendan, what happened?" We all stared up at him in shocked silence. This quiet, unassuming little boy let out a big sigh and just said, "I took a shortcut," and went straight to his seat. That line became iconic in our school for years afterwards. Kid was late to school and had to miss a very important football game. The reason? His fat pug fell asleep on his phone. The pug's fat rolls muffled his alarm. Not a teacher, but at the end of year 11 on our last day, we had a mini awards ceremony, one of which was best excuse for being late. One boy in my year had got his shoes wet and they hadn't dried by the morning, so he took the next logical step to dry them, putting them in the oven. I was the student. I was late for an exam, grade 10 history. The teacher said I should beg for forgiveness. I told him my house burnt down. My friends and I laughed to this day about how funny his face looked, how defeated he was. Thanks for watching.